burnt out and not knowing where to go next?
You might find yourself reading stories to children, but what about your own stories?
Have you got a point to prove? Find out how that might not serve you.
Want to know what an owner and a director have to say? Learn about our relationship and how we started working together in this episode. Welcome to I Am Education, the place where we unpack the education system, the behaviours and development of children, and how it impacts you, the educators, teachers, and leaders in this space. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Jason, and we are your hosts on this journey to being the best educator and teacher you can be. A place for you to be seen, to be heard, to be challenged.
And where you can learn how to stop burnout and how to change your current reality and the lives of the children in your classroom.
In each episode, we will dive deeper into the tools, frameworks, and practices that help you show up for yourself and for children you work with each and every day.
So let's go. It's time to learn why you matter. Okay, so in today's episode, we are going to share some of the stories of the roller coaster that life as an educator and owner in early childhood and the education system, what it's like and what it's been like for us over the years, and to share those experiences and insights so maybe you'll learn from them, maybe you'll resonate, connect, all of the things.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
Jason.
Yes.
Tell us some stories. Tell us a story.
Story. Well, I'm going to start us off on that deep point, because this story greatly impacted my early time in the early years. So day one, before and after school care, playing basketball with preps. It was amazing. I was showing off all the skills that I had as a 18-year-old, and the children were, oh my goodness, he's the greatest human in the world. Little preppy, she fell over. She grazed her knee. And so immediately, oh, what do I do? I have no idea what I'm doing here. So scooped her up, gave her a hug, and she sort of just like, it hurts. But we got ourselves through it, and we did it without a Band-Aid. And that's a major, no Band-Aids, no ice packs. It was next level. And so she went down, she went off playing, and I thought to myself, great, I can do this. I've done this. This is fantastic. Yes, I'm ready for all the grazed knees. I had an educator call me over. So Jason, come over here. I was like, cool. I'm like, all right, let's hear some feedback about how that could have gone better. Like, I'm learning. This is fantastic. And I was met with, next time that happens, come and get one of the females. You don't belong here. Day one, 18-year-old, early childhood, adjacent career. Had never done this before and was hit with that. So that spurred me for quite a while, because once you get that chip on your shoulder that you're like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Actually, I am amazing at this. I'm going to show it. And that probably spurred the good first 5-6 years of my career in early childhood, where I became a yes man. Whatever you need, done. I was determined to learn everything I could about every aspect of this entire sector, so that way I could prove this person. And the funny thing is, I actually don't know what her name is. Mm-hmm. Like that is how much I focused on the words as opposed to the person. And that spurred my first 5-6 years of early childhood, where I was determined to know everything and go from there.
I remember one of my sort of first experiences when coming into the sector, and this was more so from a Montessori perspective. I discovered Montessori by reading a book that my neighbour had given me at the time, and I read it. 3 months later, started I Am Montessori, went to an early childhood conference. And at this conference, which is the first time I've ever been in the sector at all, I was met with how do you know what we need? And if you want a seat at the table, you need to go and study AMI, which at the time was seen as the only way education should happen when it comes to Montessori. And I was just like, why the fuck would I want a seat at your table when nothing's changed for what feels like 50 years?
Yeah.
I didn't say it. Like, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And that was a driving force for me to be like, Montessori's for everyone. Education, this makes logical sense when it comes to education. I'm not going to let one person's opinion dictate where I can and can't make change.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when you come into a new sector. So if you're a new educator, a new teacher, and you're met with things like that, how it can impact your belief in self, positively and negatively. Luckily for us, or unluckily, not sure, we're driven by, I'll show you.
Yep.
But for some people that can be detrimental and they give up on life or give up on that direction. And so the sector misses out on great teachers, great educators because of things and experiences like that.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was a spurring moment. It drove me, like I said, to learn everything.
Yeah.
And this is where the whole understanding of life, where I go, I'm actually really thankful for it, because I wouldn't have, well, I can't say I wouldn't have because don't know, but my first actual early learning center that I worked at, I worked 2 years straight, 5 days a week, without a day off, no sick days, nothing, because I was that driven to learn.
Yeah. And over the years, we've learned how that can be unhealthy.
Oh, 100%.
At times.
I do not, disclaimer, I do not advise that at all. But for me in that time,
it's what you did.
It was what I felt I needed to do.
Yeah. And I think speaking into the work ethic that we've worked together for the last sort of 8 years, and your work ethic of that ability to go above and beyond, to do the things that other people might not be able to see, your willingness to learn, your willingness to receive feedback to be better, those are parts of what has driven my love for what you do and the drive to want to be business partners and founders together with this movement that we're creating now. Because you could see the impact that you had on the children you worked with, and not just the children you worked with, but also the families and the children who may never have been in your care, the impact you were having on that. So what is the most profound moment for you in your early years journey?
It would have to be the amount of children that have invited you to birthday parties, that they genuinely just want you to be around them 24/7. They love the friend, they love the energy. And there are times where you almost feel like a pet, because it's like, Jason, come over here. And you just, oh, hello. And no, Jason, come over here. And you're just like, oh, hello. Like it really just showed me the impact that I was having on these children's lives without actually realizing it at the same time. It was just that desire to connect. And yeah, it's amazing the amount of children that just want you around.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the most profound moments that has happened a few times is when a staff member might leave your service and then want to come back. And the ability to be open-minded and allow them to leave with growth. And, you're not holding or forcing anybody anywhere, but allowing the relationship to stay open and fair, and doesn't have to be a negative. And for them to be comfortable to reach out to say, can I please come back, because they love what myself and the team had created. They were profound moments, because for me as an owner, as an employer, I believe so heavily that I work for my team. They don't work for me. And it's moments like that when you realize, or when I realized, that I was doing my job.
Yeah.
And that felt great.
Yeah.
And the more that I have that belief, or that instill that in the culture of the work that I do, I know that the impact is felt by the families and educators and children in our care, because if I look after them, they're looking after the children, and so everybody's getting all the things done, and the impact is huge and profound. So for me, that would probably be some of those moments where that's occurred over the years.
I was one of those people.
You were one of those, if not the first.
Yeah.
And we've had
4
them
hours
as
of blue
recently as
tacking.
Christmas. So it's over the 8 years that I've had services myself. Just over. Those moments are parts that I remember really vividly and have impacted me. And so some of the, I guess, soul-crushing, defining moments, what is a story that comes to mind about what's hurt or what's impacted you so deeply, in a sense of almost like crushing your soul or taking your breath away?
It was my role as a director in a centre and having educators leave. Multiple educators leave. And that realization that, yes, that was their decision. Yes, they believe that's what they were doing for their career, for whatever. But then also that sobering realization that it was actually partly your fault as well, because of the way you were micromanaging the perfect center, because there was that belief that I'm going to make the perfect center. I had entwined so much of my self-worth into making this space, and with that came the belief that there was one way to do it. And so getting the emails come in, resignation, 2 weeks. Okay, got it. The next one comes in, resignation, 2 weeks. Okay, got it. A third. Pretty sure there was a fourth. And it just leaves me looking at a roster and going, what do I do? I'm already stretched thin. I'm already doing open to close. I don't know what else to do right now. But we always figure it out. But in the time, it's tough. And it's that long look at yourself to go, what's happening here?
Yeah.
That's probably been the biggest one for me. It's probably been the most defining one as well, because that's when I started my personal journey of figuring out life. But it was resignation after resignation that just came through and hit.
And I think there's like a generalization across the sector where people don't realize what a nominated supervisor, director, approved provider goes through to be able to open a service each and every day. And I know that not all approved providers or owners are involved in their centres. And so I also know the impact that can have and has on the quality of services and what it's like for the director. But speaking into this, because I think it's there is a lot of stories that get told or believed or understood, or beliefs around directors in schools. It's the admin team, the principals and the deputy principals,
the leadership,
and the heads of curriculum, all of those sort of things, heads of department. There becomes this divide almost between, they don't see it anymore the way that I don't. They're unrelatable. They don't get it. They're not in the classroom anymore. In this case, you were in the classroom a lot of the time as well. But I think it would be a benefit to speak into the pressure that directors, leaders, principals in the education system, whether it's early years or primary years, what they have to face and what they have to go through to get a school open, to get a centre open each and every day. So what was the pressure like as a director?
Immense.
And in this case, we'll speak in, or give you the story of, like, I'm the owner of this centre that Jason was the director of, and I would say that pressure wasn't really applied so much by me, but this is more about pressure from the industry itself or the department itself, like the requirements to be able to
I was basically given the keys to the center and said, off you go. And then it was just a case of an SOS when required.
Yeah.
So it definitely was the pressure of just the sector in itself. But directors, principals, you'll be able to probably attest to this. The witching hour between 4 and 5 p.m. on a Sunday, you get a visceral response in your body because who's calling in? Am I going to have open staff tomorrow? What emails have been created over the weekend that I now have to read in the morning? And you feel your nervous system start to ramp. And there's no outside stimulus. It doesn't matter where you are. It's happened enough times. I can be at the beach with my family and all of a sudden it's just you feel it. I can be sitting at home watching movies with my kids and I feel it. I can be on the computer doing work, doing something that's directly related to it, and I feel it. And that is one of the biggest things, because if and when those calls come in, then you're trying to figure out how to make Monday work. And if you have children, also, I need to get them to school if that's part of your role. How am I going to juggle all these things? For the most part, during my time as director, I didn't go to many of my kids' things at school because ratio said I couldn't. Because other people had time off, and that was okay. Like it was an understanding that it was part of the sacrifice.
It was what you were choosing.
It was what I was choosing. Yeah. I was choosing to go, I'm willing to sacrifice this for this. I made that decision.
How did it feel when others didn't see that sacrifice? Because it happens for a lot of directors, is that people just call in sick on Monday because they've earned enough hours in their sick leave, so they just take the day even if they're not sick. And I know that doesn't happen all the time. People are genuinely sick. But people, I don't think, see or understand the sacrifice that leaders in this sector, in education, actually have to go through.
The best thing that I realized was how lonely the leadership is.
Yes, absolutely.
When I finally realized it, it kicked in. And then I found myself not making up as many narratives about all the stuff because I accepted it. When I refused it, because
we rejected
it, when I was still in the classroom as well, it was actually harder because I would have my teacher hat on and then I'm part of the team, but then I would go put my director hat on and I'm not part of the team, but still part of the team. It was a very tricky process to go through, but ultimately me accepting the fact that leadership is lonely and it's not the responsibility of my educators to care. To begin with, it was a case of I want them to see all the work that I'm doing, that I'm doing for them, but I wasn't doing the work for them. It was doing the work for me, but I wanted them to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And when you don't get it, it's crushing.
Absolutely. It's going through my own growth over the years of having, I think we got up to somewhere where we had like 47 staff. And going through the process of accepting that loneliness instead of wanting to be accepted and wanting to be friends with or to get your identity or that cup filled from the people you lead, you realize that that's not possible in great leadership. Because for many people, and this is why I love values levels on attendant, Dr. Claire Graves' values levels, because it helped me understand the perspectives that people would have on their own personal evolution and to stop taking things so personally. and to make meaning in things that didn't need meaning to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Now, leadership also, it is lonely, but it doesn't have to be. But to expect the loneliness to be filled by the team you lead is the problem.
Yes.
It's about finding or collaborating with or finding a community of other leaders, of other people who get it, who get you and get what you're going through, to help, I guess, fill that void.
But I think it's also, there's another side to the coin there as well. It's also finding the communities that aren't going to enable the stories.
Absolutely.
Because I've been part of those conversations as well, where it's a case of it's almost bashing the team because they didn't recognize the work that you did or something.
They didn't follow the policy to call instead of text.
Yeah. And it's finding the right community, the right group that is going to empower you to not just keep reliving this story over and over again.
Absolutely, because we well know that our words create a reality. So if we're continually speaking into a certain way that might have us as the victim, then we're surrounded by people who also see themselves as the victim. We stay in that cycle and there's no growth that occurs. We just keep getting the same in, same out. And so I think with what we do with IM Education is by empowering educators, leaders, teachers to be the best version of themselves, but also to be challenged by the questions we ask or the programs or the courses that they go through with us.
Break their own cycle.
Absolutely. And taking that responsibility.
Yes.
Because for somebody, you almost, if not you did, but I would say it was almost burnt out by the fact of trying to prove something to others, to yourself.
100%.
And that doesn't have to happen.
No.
It's knowing what responsibility is yours to take as a teacher, as a leader. And in and of itself, both of those roles have responsibility to take. But it's deciding why you do what you do and finding ways that help you remember that why. And being in places and spaces where you can, with people who get it. So whether you are an educator or a teacher, having leadership who see you, who feel safe to speak to, and for you to be able to hold and not hold them accountable, but hold yourself accountable as well, so that there is the ability to have win-win scenarios created instead of us versus them, which plays out in a lot of schools, public or private, that plays out in a lot of centres, profit or non-profit. Like it happens in this sector, in education everywhere. And so the ability to see different perspectives is something that is huge in allowing yourself the space to avoid burnout.
100%.
Because if we make our worth tied to the work that we do, your work is your worth. And dependent on the quality of that leadership, the words or the people around you, you are outsourcing the power, your own power, to what others think of the work that you do.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility to do work that you're proud of. It's your responsibility to show up for the children in your classroom. And if you're a leader, for the people that you lead. But this is not you taking all the blame, and it is not you blaming everybody else.
Correct.
This is learning how to be accountable and to take the responsibility that's yours to take. And I think in this sector, and the important part of this conversation, in these stories we're sharing of our own experiences as an owner and as you as an educator teacher, is whose responsibility is where to take. And it's not just one stakeholder.
100%. It's a give and take when it comes to responsibility. It's the ability to accept what's yours. It's also the ability to ask when needed. And I do know that's a trend in this sector where directors don't ask. We just get shit done. And that has an impact on your educators in the way that your educators won't ask.
Mm-hmm.
They get shit done. And then all you've created is a center that gets shit done. But no one...
If you're lucky.
Yeah, but no one's actually remembering the why. They've fallen out of love of it because as the leader, we made that choice to go that route. And then we wonder why everyone's following us.
It starts with that self-responsibility. So if you are an educator, if you are a leader, a teacher, a principal, this conversation, the question I leave you with is, where are you not taking responsibility? And where are you taking all the responsibility? Because it's a conversation that is important for us to rebuild the education system together and to change the narrative and to realize that as education providers, as teachers of the most important asset we have as humanity, which is our early childhood, our little people.
Tiny humans.
Tiny humans. We have more of an impact than any other profession, any other role, any other job in this world. And that can feel heavy and it can feel beautiful at the same time. But the responsibility is not all yours. But where are you not taking the responsibility? Let us know your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. Send us a DM. We are open to have the conversations. This is where we want you to feel heard, seen, and understood. Thank you so much for being here. We have loved every moment we have with you. It's because of you that I am.
And these are the conversations that we love to have, because through these conversations, we actually get to learn as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I am education.
For the love of learning.
That's it.
See you later.
Bye.